8th, 2024 regular monthly meeting. And at this time, I would like to begin the meeting with a moment of silence to reflect. God, we come to you today with thanks, but also with very heavy hearts. We give thanks for this beautiful day and this wonderful summer. We give thanks to be able to start a new year to serve our students and our faculty and our community. We have received such sad news from the community, especially the last few days. We've lost former students and supporters of our school. We ask that you be with their families during this time, and to guide and support them. We ask for healing physically and mentally for the people that we love and care for. Give us direction and wisdom to choose what may be the best for our schools and our community in this meeting today. In your name we pray. Amen. Mr. Hansard, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, we get to start our meeting with Dr. Blessing to present 2024 spring data. So step up to the microphone, and the floor is yours, Dr. Blessing.
Good afternoon. I'll claim not only the floor, but the rest of the room as well. This is our annual presentation of our spring data. This is just going to be performance data. There is no growth data out yet, and so we won't see that for who knows whenever it's going to be available. A few things to keep in mind. There are some grades and subjects that are not available yet because of the change of standards or the change of the test. That's Grade 2 ELA and Math EOC. So those won't be released until September 5th. There's a process that they have to go through to determine the performance levels, whether it's below or approaching or met or exceeded. And again, September 5th is the date the state has set that will become available. In looking at the data, I've looked at it, some other people looked at it, there's not really an apparent pattern that's going on with respect to looking at the different grade levels or looking at the different content areas. So as we go through, you'll see some increases, some decreases, but it doesn't seem to be consistent one way or the other. So we're going to look at this data at district level. We're going to also compare the last 3 years of performance data, and we will also look at the South Central Core District, the 16 districts there as well. And if you're interested, all of this data came from the state website that's on this link. I will share this presentation with the board members after tonight so that you can have access at your leisure, because I'm sure that you have nothing more that you'd rather do than go look at data. There's the link. We're going to look at the all students percentages, but when you look at, if you go to the state website, it breaks it down, disaggregates it nicely into a lot of different categories. Alternate assessments aren't available yet. They've sort of released things, but they've suppressed them because we have such a small number of students who would take that test or those tests, and there's just not enough for it to register. So it's not available yet. So we'll start with grades 3 through 5 ELA. Those are all the 3 years from 21, 22 up to 23, 24. And the last column sees bolded just a little bit to get your attention. And you can see, you can look at comparing the different third grades, or you can try to follow the third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade down that diagonal, going down from left to right. You can track it that way. And I'll just give you a little time to look at that. And you also, I've broken it down by school. Now you can't do any diagonalization, you can't really compare cohorts with this, but you can compare the different grades here for, in this case, grade 3 ELA. And of course, as you have questions, feel free to ask. If I move something too quickly, you want to go back and see it, or anything else, just let me know. For grade 4 ELA, again, the 6 elementary schools.
Can that be moved up? It can't, can it?
No, and I can take time to go in and adjust the presentation and move it up, but I can't actually move it up in the middle of the presentation, I'm afraid. Or I could put the panel up on blocks, but I don't have any blocks, so I'm afraid.
So the last two schools are New Union and Hillsborough?
No, New Union, North Coffee.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
North
They're in
Coffee's-
alphabetical order.
Coffee's on the
The
bottom.
bottom.
And I apologize for not placing it higher up there. I've just overlooked thinking about
Okay, yeah.
putting it on the screen that way. And here's grade 5 ELA. And as you've looked at this, you may say, I see sort of what you're talking about. Sometimes I see a school, this grade went up, and the same school, the next grade went down, or stayed close to the same, or had big jumps or drops. So again, it just didn't really fit any pattern. Okay?
Dr. Blessing,
Yes, sir.
I'll talk with you later, come by your office someday, but
Mhm.
I've got some questions as to why, for example, and I know we went through some of this a year ago,
Mhm.
but why, for example, when we look at 21, 22, and 23, 24, how that, out of curiosity, how did New Union, thankfully, go up to 62%, and then Deerfield's at 24%?
Well, different groups of students.
I know.
Different schools, different settings, but as to compare how one did better than the other, I think that's sort of, the kind way to say it, that's just normal. You're not going to have uniform performance necessarily from one school to the next consistently. If so, it would have been a lovely pattern to establish. But if you look at the different groups, for instance, you talked about New Union. They were 50% in 21-22, dropped down to 31%, and
Right.
went up to 62. Those are 3 different groups of 5th graders. So just
But
like
looking
you
at that-
have a different group from New Union to Deerfield. So again,
Looking at that 62%
Mhm.
at grade 5 ELA, that would be good to look to see what New Union is doing
Mhm.
differently.
Mhm.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's good information
Sure.
for
But again,
use, not to compare.
right, and the whole purpose of data is to inform so that you can make decisions. And some of the questions you might have would be, okay, what practices or what strategies or what's going on? Maybe it could be something to do with the teacher, could be something to do with the scheduling, could be something to do with, who knows? But you won't know until you look.
Right, and it could be entry level, the child, you know, the
Yeah,
entry
could
level,
be
what
several
the child's
reasons.
performing.
And you won't know until you dig. Yeah. With math, again, this is for the district. For instance, you can see 4th grade was practically the same. It went up slightly, but practically the same. But others changed. Again, no particular pattern, especially compared with ELA. And when you start looking at the schools, this is grade 2. You say, why wasn't there a grade 2 ELA? Remember, that won't come out to September. It just wasn't available yet. But here's grade 2 math. And there's nothing for that 21-22 column because we didn't test that year. It's an optional test. We're not required to give grade 2, but we've started doing that, as you can see, these last 2 years.
Say there's not a pattern, but there actually is, because I've noticed from year to year that Hillsborough always seems to do pretty good as far as math. I mean, not that we shouldn't be doing better, but
Mhm.
looking at the percentages.
But then you see Hillsborough here drop slightly. So it's, again, when you start looking at all of them, it's not consistently up or consistently down. It's
Well, I'm looking at 21, 22 to
Mhm.
23, 24.
mm-hmm.
From a 24.3% to a 34.9
Mm-hmm. But
in
but
3-year
then
period. And look at Deerfield, how they have improved
uh-huh. But again,
in math. And
yeah, if you go back and look though, there's no to say Deerfield's always going up in every subject, or Hillsborough is
I
going
know
down.
that.
You know,
That's what
that
I'm
sort of
saying.
thing, yeah.
You
So, and again, you don't want to skip 22, 23. I mean, it's good to see, 21, 22, and 23, 24, but you also want to see the performance at that intermediate year. And again, we have grade 4 math.
And that's a big difference from 22, 23 in math at New Union, from 66% down to 39. So that
Mhm.
should
Yeah,
be part of the improvement plan.
I would hope. And again, every school has to create an improvement plan and submit it in e-plan electronically.
North Coffee came up
Yes.
in math.
In this grade 4 math. And here's grade 5 math.
See, again, it's Hillsborough in that math.
Yes. And they've consistently, going back those last 3 years, they've had high performance in grade 5 math.
And that brings up the district performance, that one school.
But also then, if you look at the other schools who may not have increased, but affects that average for the whole district. Each school contributes.
Dr. Blessing, I think we talked about this a year ago, looking at Hillsborough's percentages.
Mhm.
But I think I asked you this before, but with Hillsborough consistently there, 81, 72, 73, what do you attribute their 3-year consistently higher percentages than the other 5 elementary schools?
Well, I know they've had some stability in their grade 5 math teaching. They've had the same teacher. Now that second call, or the third call in 22, 23, they actually had 2 grade 5 math teachers because of the size of that particular grade 5 group. So sometimes it's 1 teacher, sometimes it's 2 teachers. But again, they've had that stability. And to go any further, I'd have to actually go down and look further into what is it the teacher, is it what that teacher does with respect to what's going on in their classroom, is it some material they're bringing in, is it some strategy they're using. And again, that would hope that the principal leading their building would be able to do that and look at the data, see what it tells them, and then make decisions based on it.
Dr. Blessing, are all of the 6 elementary schools in the 5th grade using the same math books?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that the teacher is chained to that book, that they can't pull in something else if they're supplementing, or if they're maybe doing some sort of, I wouldn't say necessarily presentation, but that could be it, where maybe they're connecting with their students better. Again, we won't know until we dig. And again, I think the principals would be able to better answer those.
Thank you.
For science, here's, again, you see for the district, for grades 3, 4, and 5. And it's interesting that grade 4 stayed the same, 42.3%, 42.3%. And for the individual elementary schools, you have this information. Pardon me. grade 4. And here's grade 5. And again, those are the 3 subjects that are tested in elementary 3-5, ELA, math, and science. They don't do social studies. I don't know if they'll ever introduce that social studies test again, but they haven't developed it yet. For grades 6 through 8, here again is a breakdown by grade level. And here's math. And again, I would want to point out, I see some improvement in grade 8. When you look here at English, and here at math. In fact, I see improvement in all the grade levels with this one, at least from one 6th grade to the next, or 7th or 8th. And here's science. And social studies. They do have a social studies test for middle school.
Let's not do last year, you got us the board members a hard copy of all the scores?
No, sir. I gave you an electronic copy.
Okay, well, I know
I didn't print one. You may print it your own.
Okay. Must have been in the form, but I got a hard copy.
Yeah. Unless, of course, you bought it off eBay. You know, it's a very popular item. No, just kidding. But I did share it electronically, and I will share it electronically again for this presentation after tonight. Okay. The EOC tests, these are subject specific, so you can't follow diagonally like we could with the grades, because students take these tests at different times in different orders, so you can't really analyze it that way. But you can look for English 1 and English 2, and there's biology and U.S. history.
I'm going to guess U.S. history, that score is still what comes from Virtual Academy.
You're right, it is.
Why do we not just go ahead and put them in dual enrollment like everybody at the high school is in, so they don't have to test?
Well, I believe with the state dual credit U.S. history at the high school, I'm not sure if that lends itself to the virtual academies asynchronous.
The software platform that we use has the EOC U.S. history. It does not have the dual enrollment U.S. history.
Yeah.
That particular software platform.
Now, for South Central, again, remember there's 16 districts. Not all districts offer all subjects, so you won't necessarily see every district listed in every table. And we're looking again at all students and all grades. The file from the state breaks it down much further. And these are percentages. For some strange reason, when I put the table in, it wouldn't let me put percent signs. So I must have clicked something that locked it or did something. I've highlighted the state of Tennessee average in yellow and Coffee County's average in green. Then you can see it ranges from Manchester, had 38.2% met or exceeded, and down to Perry County had 26.6%. And again, as you look at these, if there's some questions you have, I can't really answer about other districts, but I can try to share what I might be able to glean from it. For math, again, you see goes from 46.6% at the top with Manchester down to Lewis County at 27.7%. And this, I'm quite sure when you look at these, when it says ELA, they're putting all the English testing together. It's not just elementary or middle school. It's elementary, middle school, high school. It's everything together. And again, you'll see we've examined this slide. So for just for reference, when you see some of the systems like Manchester, I think maybe be the only one, they don't offer English 1 or English 2. So theirs would be just elementary and middle school, whereas I think all the others would be having English 1, English 2 involved in that. I don't think any of the grade 2 is thrown into this because not all systems choose to test grade 2.
What about Lawrence County? Because every one of those, Manchester and Lawrence County, were above state average in all areas.
For those two, But again, Lawrence County, I'm sure they have high school, so they did the English testing with EOCs, but again, Manchester did not. I'm trying to think if any others in this list
Moore
are.
County has high school. Moore County has high school.
Yes, they do. For science, you'll see Moore County is the highest there with 53.9%, down to Lewis County at 32.4%. And you see with this particular one, you see Coffee County's closer to the state average. And sort of falls in the middle of the 16 districts. For social studies, you see very closer to the state average, a little higher in the rankings of the South Central Core. But again, Moore County's at 54.5 down to 29.1 for Lewis County. So it's not, again, consistently always this system at the top or always this system at the bottom. It seems to swap around.
It's consistently for those three at the top. They're in every one. Manchester, Lawrence County, and Moore.
So far. But then you'll see some others like Marshall's popped up here in science, Giles County. And social studies, you'll see those. Again, sort of changes around again slightly. For English 1, you'll see Lincoln County, there's 39%, goes down to 16.9% at Fayetteville. And again, we're close to the state average. Last year, we were actually above the state average a little bit, so it sort of dropped somewhat. And for English 2, we are above the state average. Again, we've been above the state average now in English 2 for 2 or 3 years, which is an excellent place to be. You'll see Lincoln County 58.4 down to Perry County at 19.8. With biology, Moore County 64.2% down to Perry County with an asterisk. You say, what? Well, the asterisk means that the state has suppressed the performance data, and there's different reasons for suppression. One could be in one of the 4 performance levels, it was greater than 95%. Or, on the other end, in one of the 4 performance levels, it was less than 5%. And when that happens, they suppress all 4 performance levels. The other reason it could be suppressed is if you have fewer than 10 students. But I don't think that would be the case with this. I think it has to do probably with the performance. So I don't know where Perry County would fall in the mix. They could be extremely high or low. We just don't know. And for U.S. history, again, you see Lincoln County up there at 61.2, down to Lawrence County's being suppressed for whatever reason. But above that would be Wayne County, 12.5%.
Why would Moore County not be on the chart at all?
Well, it could
'Cause
be
it's a
that
high
they don't
school.
offer U.S. history.
You don't have to offer U.S. history.
It could be the state dual credit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Parsley?
I'm pretty sure they do state dual credit history. I'm pretty sure that's.
Yeah, they're like us in that. We have Virtual Academy offers regular U.S. history, but the high school does not. Yeah. Okay. Other questions you may have? Again, I will share this electronically with you, and if you have other questions that occur, just let me know, and we'll try to figure them out.
Thank you, Dr. Blessing.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll call the meeting to order. We did not have any requests for public comment today. So at this time, I will open the floor to accept the agenda and also pass the general consent items at the same time.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got Ms. Rose and Mr. Cordell. Any questions about the agenda or? Hearing none, we'll start with you today, Mr. Ballard.
Aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. That passes 7-0. All right, our agenda is set. Agenda item, action item number 1, SRO MOU. Dr. Lawson, you want to speak on this?
Yes, sir. I'll introduce this topic. In the legislative session in 2023, the state of Tennessee started, they legislated money being provided for SROs across the state. Even prior to that, Coffee County had SROs already because Sheriff Parton had run, that was one of his platforms he ran on when he ran for sheriff, and after getting elected, he put those in the schools. But that particular piece of legislation indicated an increase in the state involvement, both in funding as well as legislating what has to be done at each location. And as part of that, they mandated a certain MOU. Now, this MOU was not included in the board documents because it has been specifically requested by the state that we do not put that MOU out there for public consumption. There's a few things in there that detail the school district has to provide certain resources for the SRO and that kind of thing. And part of those resources would also indicate some of the capabilities of the SRO within the building. And therefore, we are not, it's considered a safety document and cannot be publicly disseminated. That's why it was not in the board documents. We do have copies that if a board member desired to look it over in more detail, we have that. I will say, now, this also is released by the state. It is mandated. This is the MOU that you will use. I mean, it's not something necessarily that we negotiated and that kind of thing. This MOU from the state said, hey, if MOUs, they're going to be SROs are going to be funded this way. They're going to be provided this by the district. They're going to be provided this by the law enforcement. And here's the agreement. And so it is just the same as it was last year. We had a little bit more discussion when that legislation came out, but there's no changes to it. And so it's just basically approving the same functionality of the SROs within the buildings as has been done in the past. And so, but I am aware that some of you have not had a chance to look it over this year. And so if that's just where we are, but there have been no changes, and that's the SRO MOU, and it's just basically, it has to be approved each year by the board.
Okay, so passing the SRO MOU would be your recommendation?
Yes, it would.
Okay, you've heard the director's recommendation to accept this memorandum of understanding for the SROs. I'd like to open the floor for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Rose, Mr. Cordell. You say it's really not changed in the last
It
year?
has not changed.
It's the same one that we
It is essentially
accepted?
the same other than dates. There has been one change added. We do now have a full-time SRO at the cost center who is stationed at the cost center. So that, I think that, oh, was that already, okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking that it was added since then, but no, so it is exactly the same then.
Okay.
So we have seen it,
Uh,
we've all seen it.
You can see it. If you don't feel comfortable voting for it, you don't have to do a vote tonight. We can put it on the August board, but we will. Well, you can see it, absolutely. We can give you a physical copy and that kind of thing and go from there. But again, it's the same as last year, and that's where we are. It just could not be included as the board documents.
It could be, but it could be given to us as a physical copy as a board member.
Yes, we have some physical copies if you want that, yes.
Yeah,
It's just not to be disseminated.
right.
So is the funding the same level as last year?
The funding, I can't say that. I mean, the funding goes to the sheriff's department, so it's hard for me to say. I have not heard of any increases or decreases in the funding level. To my knowledge, it is the same, but that's not something, that's run through through the county books, specifically to the sheriff's department.
But we don't anticipate any reduction in funding that would require, Okay.
We don't anticipate it. It does not actually impact our budget, as a result.
right, yeah.
Questions or concerns? If not, we're gonna vote to approve the SOR memorandum of understanding at this time. Action item number 1. Mr. Parsley.
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye. That passes 7-0. Okay, the action item number 2, the annual agenda. Dr. Lawson, you want to speak on this?
Pretty much standard at the beginning of each new fiscal year leading into the new school year. The board approves the annual agenda. There was a good amount of work was done on this a couple of years ago as we moved things around, but this is essentially the same as it has been. Ms. Westmoreland, there's no significant changes this year from last year, right? Okay. And so it's just a formal process of adopting the annual agenda and what's going to be discussed in what months.
And this annual agenda comes with your recommendation.
It does.
Heard the director's recommendation to accept the annual agenda that's been presented. I'd like to open the floor for a motion as such. Mr. Cordell, do I hear a second?
Second.
Ms. Rose, questions on the agenda?
Are we doing a new board orientation for the new board members again this year? Is that scheduled?
It is not scheduled yet, but yes, we
Right,
will
right,
be planning
right.
to do an orientation.
Okay, we're going to vote to approve the annual agenda. Action item number 2 at this time, Ms. Jennifer.
Aye. Aye.
Right.
Aye.
But I mean, I'm talking for the new folks. Yeah,
Mr. Ballard.
right. Is it scheduled?
Mr. Ballard, your vote.
What's that?
We're
Your-
voting,
Aye.
I'm sorry. Your-
Yeah.
Aye. And chair votes aye. That passes 7-0. Action item number 3, the Civil Rights and Bullying Compliance Report. Dr. Lawson, are you speaking on this?
Well, I may turn this over to Dr. Cornelius. He is the one who has developed this and keeps track of the data and that kind of thing, and would be much better equipped than I answering questions. Basically, yeah, part of it is this is something we do each year. We basically is accepting this. It's following the data that we have and that has been reported to the state. And all the board has to do is vote signifying they have received and recognized the data. Is there anything I'm forgetting, Dr. Cornelius?
No, not that I can.
Okay. But if there are questions on specific parts of this, I am going to defer to Dr. Cornelius.
Okay, it comes with your recommendation to accept this report.
To accept the report?
Okay,
Yes, sir,
like
it does.
you've heard the director's recommendation to accept the Civil Rights and Bullying Compliance Report. I'd like to open the floor for a motion to, as such.
So move.
Ms. Jones, do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Parsley. Questions on this report?
I'd just like to know how it compared to the previous school year as far as the cases of bullying reported.
Previous school year, there were 28 substantiated bullying incidents. This year, there were 41. And I say substantiated because then there also can be, I have the vehicle, the means for them to log allegations to. They don't get reported up to the state, but we track those. And we had 55 allegations because an allegation of bullying may not necessarily, manifest itself up to bullying or harassment itself. That's up to the individual investigative administrator to determine. So it was a little bit better this year. I think they've gotten better at it.
Dr. Cornelius, excuse me, I assume you investigate or your office investigates each of these incidents?
Now, I don't do the investigation. The school administrator
Okay.
that takes they do the investigation. I just look at the documentation and make sure that their documentation is all correct and things like that. That's all. That's what I do, and then I report it out, and then I also give them any kind of training if they need. If I see any issues, I send training out to all of them too.
Okay. Thank you.
So you're saying the 41 is less than what it was last year?
No, it's a little more.
Oh, a little
It's
more,
yeah.
okay.
Last year there were 28.
Oh, okay, that's what I
And so
thought.
This
year
year
it's
there
41.
were 41 that were actually substantiated.
Is there a trend in the specific grade level or school?
Usually the grade level, the trend will be, there's more at the, I'd say a little bit more in a little bit more in middle school than in 9-12. Just a little bit. It's not a whole lot, but it does vary just a little bit. With just 41, it's hard to make a lot of statistical
Right.
inferences with that low of a number.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? If not, we're going to vote to accept the Civil Rights and Bullying Compliance Report at this time. Ms. Jones, your vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Ballard?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 7-0. Action item number 4, the budget update. Ms. Melson, you want to speak on this?
This is the budget update through May. So through May, we've received 90.99% of revenue compared to last year of 88.14%. And then for expenditures through May, we paid out 74.32% compared to last year of 79.47%. The budget's on track. We still have 2 months of revenue to book and then 1 month of expenditures. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
This budget update comes with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson?
It does.
All right, you heard the director's recommendation to accept the budget update. I'd like to open the floor for a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Parsley?
Second.
Mr. Cordell? Questions on individual items for Ms. Melson or Dr. Lawson? Hearing none, Ms. Rose, you're up.
Aye.
Mr. Cordell?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye. That passes 7-0. And there, we have finished our action items. At this time, we'll go to items for discussion, and I'll let the principals go first. And I do want to say something, of the many years I've been here, Paul Parsley and Jimmy Adams have been consistently here at a majority of the meetings, at whatever responsibility they had, and that will get you nothing but my appreciation. Thank y'all for coming. Y'all, like I say, have been very, very consistent, and I do thank you for being here. And that, now you can entertain us. Who wants to go? Mr. Anderson, you got anything for us today?
No, sir.
Everything's ready to go?
Pardon?
Everything's ready to go, right?
Almost.
Good. Good. Mr. Parsley, you have anything?
Very briefly. With our being in summer in just a few weeks, I guess about 3 weeks before school starts, don't have too much to share. Obviously nothing regarding student activities at this time, but we do have quite a bit of work going on in our high school building. We have our construction building. Of course, it's been underway for some time now, and we're looking forward to its completion. You're welcome to stop by anytime and take a look at what's going on there. We're hoping that in the next several weeks it will be done. Also, we're due to get some new furniture. We appreciate all that you all have done to support us in getting new classroom furniture over the past few years at the high school. And we are slowly but surely getting all of the classroom furniture in our school replaced. With the size building we have, it's would be very difficult to do it all at once. So we are due to receive quite a bit of new classroom furniture. I believe it's coming in next Monday, and that will be assembled, and I believe we're getting furniture for about 20 or so classrooms. Also, we've got a restroom renovation that's going on, and with lots of restrooms at the high school, but several of those are receiving a renovation this summer. And then finally, we have some gentlemen working at the high school beginning to install window film. And they started that today, and I'm sure that will take some time over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I would guess. So we're glad for that. And then the final thing I'll share is we have just hired a new head baseball coach. His name is Mr. Jerry Pruitt. He has been very instrumental in local baseball here in our community for the past few years, has worked with our middle school program for a few years now, and is our new head baseball coach. So,
Well, excellent. One question, everything go well with the Bonnaroo and them using the facility? Did we have any issues, or did that go smoothly again
No.
this year?
That's a great question. We did not have any issues to speak of. I didn't think to mention that, but no, we really didn't have any concerns from the use of our facility at Bonnaroo, with Bonnaroo this year. We had our normal summer work going on, our custodians working, maintenance working, some administrators working, and things carried on as usual.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Pruitt a teacher?
No, ma'am. He will be a non-faculty coach. He'll be a non-faculty coach.
So we have head coaches that are non-faculty?
Yes, let's see, we do have, off the top of my head, I believe we have about 3 at the high school. I would have to go back and look at some paperwork, but I think that's right. Any other questions?
Thank you. All right, at this time, if board members have anything, Mr. Ballard, we started with you. We'll let you go first if you have anything
Nothing
to
for
say.
me, I've been out of town so much.
Okay, yeah, it's been kind of quiet. Mr. Parsley?
No, sir.
Ms. Jennifer? Ms. Frida?
I just wondered, are we gonna be provided with any type of school improvement plans for this fall? When,
As far as the individual school improvement plans?
or system improvement plan? that would include the schools?
We can get you that, we can get you those individual plans, yes, ma'am, as they develop.
Okay, I think that's a board policy that we are provided that, and I was just wondering if that was gonna be provided.
As we develop those, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rose?
Nothing.
Mr. Cordell? All right, I don't think I have anything either. So has there been any, there's not been any committees or,
No committee meetings.
student ambassador? Do you want to say anything? I guess there's not been anything really going on that needs, at this point, will they be, the student ambassadors are, it's going to be different next year. They're going to rotate monthly?
So, do you want me to come up front?
Yeah, come up in front and tell that so we'll know what to expect when.
So our student ambassadors for the high school, there are two of those, and they will begin to work in August. That's what we've done in past years. They've not been in the summer, but they will be in for the August board meeting. And what we're going to do beginning this year is rotate our student ambassadors from within our Student Government Association. Rather than having two young people who serve for the entire year, we are going to rotate them from again, our Student Government Association. That will get a larger representation from our students into talk about what's going on in the school, and you'll be able to hear from many more of our students that way. And so they will rotate, and they will either be in 1 month or 2 months next school year for the meetings. Questions there?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Look forward to seeing
and just to be very clear, our former student ambassadors have done a really tremendous job, so they're absolutely no problem at all with how we had done that in the past. But after quite a bit of discussion with administrators and SGA sponsors, we just thought it would be good to give a greater representation as far as the number of students that are, getting really this experience.
Thank you. I know it's been a very positive program through the years, and the people that have been on it have been very dedicated and sit here for a long time and listen to a lot, but I think they did learn and did have significant input. My daughter was one years ago, and she really enjoyed it, and so I think it's a great program and look forward to seeing new faces next year. All right. Director's report, Dr. Lawson.
Yes, I have several items. One I want to mention, since the last meeting, summer school has concluded. It was concluded before the end of June. And so everything seemed to go smoothly. There were credits recovered at the high school. There were hopefully gains made at the elementary school. There is some post-summer programming testing done for the grades that are legislated in third grade and that kind of thing. So we're working our way through that new data and making sure that we are following the regulations on both third and fourth grade retention. But summer school has concluded. I did want to mention something. A grant award came to multiple schools in the district this year, the Mr. Hollins Opus Foundation. Now, the Mr. Hollins Opus Foundation is funded primarily through the CMA Foundation, which everybody in Middle Tennessee would probably recognize those acronyms. But the CMA Foundation funds a lot of this, and Coffee County, many of our schools received funding for musical instruments from, as the smallest gift was $2,982. The largest gift at the high school was $60,860. And the total received across the district was $157,630 worth of instruments. Now, they don't send the money directly. My understanding is we received the instruments and that kind of thing. But this is at all levels, elementary, middle, and high. And so it allows an expansion of the music programs at the middle school level, which don't always have access to a variety of instruments. This greatly increases the variety of instruments we have available for our youngest learners. It gives an opportunity to buy some very expensive items at the middle school and high school band level, some of the larger percussion type instruments and some of the things that are, let's say, prohibitive to impossible for an individual family to purchase. And it also allows us to upgrade and replace some of the aging equipment and musical instruments at different places. So we are very thankful for the generous donation from the Mr. Hollins Opus Foundation of over $157,000 worth of musical equipment.
That's good news. I know some people that are gonna be very happy to hear that, so great news.
So
Did the music teachers have to submit a grant?
what happened was, it was basically, yes, it was
So
a grant.
kudos
that
to those teachers that did that.
The teachers did an excellent job, absolutely.
That's how we got the money.
And so, there was no doubt. And let's see, I guess, I want to address something that has come up both in June 3rd and June 10th. In the June 3rd meeting, Mr. Ballard made a statement and said that I had said something in a conversation we had, and as you recall, on June 3rd, I denied it. And it was a he said situation. On June 10th, I was not present. I was visiting my son in Alaska. But when I reviewed the video, I heard this quote from Mr. Ballard. He wanted to make sure, he asked to speak, wanted to make sure that he said it so that it could be recorded. The board has already heard the results of my investigation, but I want to make sure that this is recorded. So, what Mr. Ballard said was there is indeed a video of the discussion, and anybody that's been to Dunkin' Donuts knows they have an insane number of cameras in that place, so I'll just leave that there. I was curious, as I said in my email to the board, I always like to make sure that I am as accurate as possible. If there was a chance that I was going to find out what was the answer to this, I visited with Dunkin' Donuts myself. Now, when I talked to the manager, she explained to me that there is no audio on their security footage, and nobody can access Dunkin' Donuts security footage without the involvement of the police. So, I know that my first thought was that there was a video that could be seen that would confirm or deny whether I had made that statement. So I had the impression that this existed based upon what Mr. Ballard said on June 10th, and I can say that as near as I can tell, if the video exists, it doesn't have audio on it, and there's no way to know if it even exists because it would require police involvement. And I just wanted to make sure that is put onto a recording of the board meeting. The next thing I'm going to bring up is because I anticipate it will come up again. The fact, as far as dismissal without cause is exactly that. It doesn't require a cause. So if it comes up in the future, you're not going to find me fighting that or anything else. That is the will of the board. There does not have to be any cause given, whether real or not. But I just wanted to make sure that was explained, because in the future, if it comes up again, giving a cause is not necessary when the vote is for dismissal without cause. Let's see, ESSER update's my last thing. The money has now been allocated. We have completely allocated all ESSER funds. They have not all been expended. There are some ongoing projects that still need to be completed. We will be processing payments as different projects and purchases are accomplished. We anticipate finishing by September 30th. We do not want to go, there is a there is a waiver that can be applied for in order to go beyond the September 30th date, but we have no desire to do that. We want to make sure that this is done. And so that is our drop dead date, so to speak, and we don't really anticipate any problem with meeting that deadline. But I will try to inform the board when everything is closed out. But there are a few large projects, especially some HVAC systems, some purchases of chairs. There's a few other items that we are currently working our way through its conclusion. And that's the ESSER update.
Okay, thank you. Our next board meeting will be August the 12th, 2024, right here. And summer law is July 18th, 19th, and 20th in Gatlinburg. And I believe we do have a few board members that are attending or traveling to that during that time. Okay? At that point, we've completed our meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Everybody in favor,